On to the game. Here we go. Ohio State is a winner. 37-3 over Minnesota, 11-0. Two 11-0 teams are going to play next Saturday night, and you can tell Ohio State is ready to close the book on this one. A game that was done in less than 3 hours, pretty much exactly what the Buckeyes would have wanted. You keep the clock running, you get the starters out of the game early. We'll go through it all on the notebook as we head out of here. Everybody grabbing some assorted gummy worms out for the media. Swedish fish, Bill, would you like some? No. That's right, Bill Landis on the camera. Can't wait to see his cinematic masterpiece as we get through this on the podcast and wrap up the last game in the horseshoe of the season. Time has flown by. Peek in here to the recruiting room to see if the celebration is ongoing. Pretty much done for Ohio State. Tearing down. Yep, closing it up. No bonus interviews with Jim Knowles to see how he felt about a second shutout that slips away thanks to a 50-yard field goal, 50-plus yard field goal. Watch out for loose balloons. Okay. Yeah, I think the quote of the night came from Jordan Hancock. He was asked about that field goal Minnesota hits to make it a 37-3 game. He said, make sure I get this right. Yeah, congrats to those guys for scoring. Big tip of the cap there. They did not want that shutout. Happens 2 weeks in a row. Great season down here.
Take care, sir.
So you got it. All right. Yeah, everybody ready to close down this building. We're going to grab Kyle McCord here for a second if we can. Some hot Donato's pizza coming out. More pizza for the Buckeyes. That seems to be their favorite this year for the post game. Mark Pantoni doesn't want any pizza. No pizza, Mark?
I already ate.
All right. Smoothie King and pizza. And it has been absolutely devoured. Buckeyes have their appetite up for the game, it appears. We'll see if Kyle wraps up here with Dom. We'll get two questions.
Just bring him in.
He was pretty upfront and honest about the assessment of his play. The first half was a little bit rough. We've talked some about the footwork and the rhythm for Kyle McCord. When things get off, that's what you can point to. You know, it was 13-0 there in the first half. Two more, Kyle?
Yeah, what's up?
You love pizza after the game, right?
Yeah.
Are you sick of this Donato's, or do you want something else? Like, it seems to be working.
You got any recommendations?
Oh, you should know. You live here. You've lived here for 3 years. A performance like this, Kyle, knowing what's coming in a week, is it one where you feel like there's still room for you to go to another level, or were you happy with the way it went?
I think there's room for improvement, and I think this offense, we can really take this thing to the next level.
Here you go. Put it on here.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Put the card on here. I'll get it for you.
Focused on this week.
Is it weird to have trading cards already of yourself? Is number 6 your favorite player? All right, we'll let him sign off. Thanks, Kyle. Congrats on the win. We don't want to interrupt a moment like that. All right. So, comes back. Kyle McCord throws a touchdown to Marvin Harrison. A lot of fans out here late in the game trying to beat the cheaters, if that wasn't picked up by the camera.
Who are the cheaters?
That is actually Michigan. They've been under investigation for a month.
Whoa. If you're going to have real viewers on here.
Yeah, no, there are real.
Allegedly.
Actually, they've already accepted a punishment for it.
Oh, that's true. Okay, cheater.
It's not alleged. And they never actually denied it. So get ready for another week of that sort of coverage. Ohio State in Michigan. It is time for the game. You get that sense in the third quarter. All right, fast forward, get it over with. The way that Ohio State did that was by scoring 2 touchdowns in 63 seconds to start the third quarter. After that first half, 13-0. We were talking about Kyle McCord. The footwork wasn't perfect. They missed some chances down there in the short red zone. Well, you can avoid that by handing it to Travion Henderson, letting him go 75 yards for a score. 1 play, 1 touchdown in the third quarter for Ohio State on offense. 1 play, 1 turnover for the Ohio State defense as Jack Sawyer forces a fumble on a sack that JT Tuimoloau recovers, and Ohio State Goes on, punches in the touchdown there. That was the 1-2 Marvin Harrison. And from there, the blowout was on. That made it a 27-point lead for the Buckeyes, and they cruised from there. All right, so let's reset a little bit. Lights on for the last time in here of the season. I cannot believe it. I say it over and over. Like, this year has gone so incredibly fast, and there won't be another game to cover in here, and it is time to turn all that attention in a busy week after Thanksgiving as Ohio State heads to Ann Arbor. So let's go through that first quarter. There was a lot that I wrote down in here. I think mentioned Jack Sawyer forcing that fumble in the third quarter. That was a key play, but just his name kept coming up here in the first quarter as one of the standouts. He was living in the backfield. I think he finished with 3.5 tackles for loss. Did a lot of that work early on, but can't ignore, Travion Henderson's ridiculous jump cut. He used that on both touchdowns, but Ohio State ran a counter there on their first drive of the game, and he just popped out of the hole. Minnesota had no chance at him, so he's got that first touchdown. I'll give it to him as the first quarter star. That was the only touchdown of that quarter. And I wrote down a couple notes, and the special teams was mainly in the focus. That was when the game was most in jeopardy. And for folks that are tired of us talking about it, this is the sort of thing that I think they weren't debilitating plays, but Ohio State lost 23 yards of field position on the first 2 punts of the game. How did they do that? Well, one, they committed a needless holding penalty. That's poor execution, lack of focus, discipline. That came up with Parker Fleming. He did, give the media an interview on Wednesday night, and he was like, whoa, what penalties? I mean, I bet they've been penalized 8 times this year. I mean, I'm going to go back and count. But another one. Thank you. All right. Love the podcast. Shout out to that guy. He could have come down here. We'd have him on. So that cost them 10 yards of field position right there. And then on the ensuing punt, after Ohio State gets another defensive stop, Jaden Bauer's not able to, I'll say not able. Wasn't able to get to the punt. Wasn't able to field it. It bounces at the 16 and rolls down to the 3. 13 more yards of field position. I mean, that's job number one when we talk about Ohio State all the time, that not having a punt return for a touchdown since 2014 and the lack of explosiveness. It doesn't even have to be a touchdown or a long return for Ohio State to manage some of this field position and the yardage differently. That cost them 13 yards and forced the drive to start at the 3. It never really had a chance to get going. It's a difficult situation. Ohio State, tries to run it out with Travion Henderson early on. Just, it's not the situation that you want to be in. So anyway, that's the update on special teams for the week. Get into the second quarter. Boy, maybe I'll give this honor to Ryan Day for calling the pop pass. It's back, baby. Some people out there have wanted this play in the playbook desperately for a long time. And that person mainly is me. So Emeka Egbuka gets it in that second quarter. It's a third down conversion. And he picked up a face mask, so 15 extra yards on that. A big play. Later on that drive, pop pass number 2, also to Emeka Egbuka, also for a first down. It's like, hey, this is pretty easy stuff, right? Didn't go for a touchdown. Ohio State kicked 2 field goals to go up 13-0 at halftime. And then I don't know what to make of the decision as Ohio State gets ready to go to the locker room. Ryan Day sort of talked about it in his post-game. He was asked because the decision didn't make sense. Bill Landis and I look at the play clock. It's not even running as Ohio State has the ball facing, I believe it was 3rd and 12. They have 2 timeouts, but the half is also over. They're going to get the football back to start the third quarter. Calls a play, tries to throw a pass. Protection breaks down. Kyle McCord, it looked like the ball came out, he was going to the ground, but he was also in a great amount of pain. He's already been working with an ankle injury. It looks like the defender lands on that ankle. He's limping, and he came back. He was stronger again in the second half than he was in the first. And you saw him, as we were going through the notebook here, still walking a little gingerly. He doesn't usually struggle quite as much just to walk to the team bus as he seemed to tonight. But anyway, it just was bizarre. They talk all the time about coaches trying to put their players in the best position to win the game and the best position to succeed. That, I think we can say, was a bit of a misfire for Ohio State. So it's cleared out up here. We'll head back to the field and making Bill really work for his only time running the camera this year for Berm. Are you having fun? He's having a great time. All right, so into that third quarter. I love this. Ohio State gets into that third down, and the crowd, they're going towards the Block O in the south stands, and they just start chanting, Marvin, Marvin, Marvin. It's like, hey, don't tell Minnesota where the ball's going. But it doesn't matter anyway, because he's Marvin Harrison Jr. A quiet night overall. 3 catches, 30 yards, and they pull him out after, give him some rest after that touchdown. The touchdown is what's ultimately going to matter for the Heisman Trophy campaign, and the final barometer is going to be next week in Ann Arbor anyway. I think if Ohio State wins, Marvin should probably be in New York anyway, but he's got a legitimate shot to win the Heisman if Ohio State wins the game. Then they would play again in Indianapolis the following week. An opportunity to really put together some crazy stats that people can't ignore. He's even on a night when he has 3 catches. Minnesota devoted extra bodies, at least double coverage on the vast majority of the snaps. They took a little play. That poor cheese sauce. My goodness. That's anyway. They tried to do what Rutgers did, and Ohio State was content and more successful running the football with TreVeyon Henderson. They're like, if that's what you want to do and you want to take Marvin Harrison away, the beneficiary for that is a healthier Emeka Egbuka. Let's see. Bill Landis asked Ryan Day about if he looked like he'd had that explosiveness back. The burst, Ryan Day said, I saw it too. Emeka is now as close to 100% as he can possibly be. That's a huge deal. You saw it on the pop passes going around. You saw him working against coverage and running, crossing routes deep across the field. That's more of the version that we saw in September that was so dangerous. And that's what Ohio State needs. It got to the point, and you put Emeka and Marvin Harrison Jr. on the same side of the field, good luck. You've got to make some tough choices. And Ohio State didn't take advantage of every deep shot that may have been available to them. I think when Ryan Day and Kyle McCord go back through the film, they'll see that and say, well, there were a couple opportunities where Julian Fleming was open too. And there was a route there in the first half, 3 different options were wide open. And Kyle McCord took the safe one, got it to Cade Stover, moved it for a first down. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if there are opportunities for deeper explosive plays and touchdowns, that's what I think you need maybe to get over the top in the game. We'll see, maybe not. If Ohio State can run the football the way that they have the last few weeks with TreVeyon Henderson, maybe not a big deal to just, avoid costly mistakes, not turn the football over at quarterback, and that could be good enough. In the fourth quarter then, got to give the star here, final one, to Cade Stover. I thought his night was already over. They went to a package with multiple tight ends, put Cade back in there, ran a play action that pretty much everybody in the world knew where the football was going, and every other team I think that's faced Ohio State this year has taken that play away from them. But Kyle McCord hits Cade Stover. Kyle said, that's my guy. There's not a tougher dude anywhere. And I think to get him, that was probably his last play in the horseshoe, and to get him that touchdown was really special. It's a cool moment for Cade Stover, who was playing without his roommate and buddy today, Tommy Eichenberg. When you look at the injury report for Ohio State and start thinking about next week, Ryan Day said if the game had been today, Tommy Eichenberg would have played. He came out for warm-ups and had on the pads and everything, but I saw that the arm brace was not on. And I'm like, uh-oh, Tommy's not going to get to play on senior day. And that's sad. That's a special thing that he's not going to get back. He still got to walk. He was still on the sideline with his teammates, but everybody would prefer to play. Talked to Cody Simon about that, and Ohio State continuing to play really good defense without him, and then having him back for Michigan, what that means, it's obvious. He's the captain. He's the heart and soul of that defense. He's the quarterback of the defense. So that's going to be a big deal. But he said that Tommy fought it. Ryan Day talked about some fiery text messages that were exchanged on Friday night when that decision seems to have been made. He was still listed as questionable for the game, which means, again, an emergency situation. That's sort of how Ohio State has gone about handling that on the availability report this year. But it was that's the big picture. Ohio State has to be healthy and ready for the game, which it's now here. I don't think there's a lot else to say. Ohio State handled its business the way that it needed to. They win by 34. They cover again. It goes under. So congrats to everybody who followed those recommendations from the pick show. I hope you enjoy getting rich. But it feels a little bit pointless to keep talking more about Minnesota. We went through some of the players, the availability report. Looking forward, Ohio State's still going to have to give an update on Michael Hall. They don't have to. There will be next week. There's optimism from the people that I've talked to in the Woody about Mike Hall's situation. I didn't see him in the stadium tonight at all, probably getting round-the-clock treatment so that he can be ready. But Ohio State does seem to think that Mike Hall will be back for that game. That's critically important. Everybody knows what Michigan wants to do running the football. And they have looked a little suspect the last couple of weeks on the offensive line, Michigan. So we'll see how that all plays out. But, I mean, 37-3 just about says it all. That's the last time this scoreboard is going to be used for the year. I can't believe that. Won't be back in here until April for the spring game. But there is more football to be played. Ohio State on the road in the game next Saturday at noon in Ann Arbor. A lot more coverage, of course, all week long coming your way on the podcast. Put a bow on this. Stop talking. We'll not even mention Minnesota again. How about that? Maybe we'll Sunday blitz it. Yeah, we definitely will. But that conversation probably going to be about Michigan too. So thanks for joining us for every episode of The Notebook in the Horseshoe this year. Appreciate Bill Landis behind the camera. I am Austin Ward, and that is a wrap. 37-3, Buckeyes win. They're 11-0. On to the game.